Welcome to rSlash, Am I the Butthole, where two parents abuse their disabled child. Am I the butthole for moving out because my family keeps playing with my cane? I'm a 17-year-old girl, and I still live with my mom, my stepdad, and my two half-siblings, a 5-year-old boy and a 7-year-old girl. My dad died when I was 5 while driving me to the hospital. My mom didn't want to pay for an ambulance. My dad died in the crash, and my leg and spine got busted up in a way that has left me needing a cane pretty much ever since. My stepdad's always been a little distant with me, and he likes to make jokes about how I'm an early blooming black widow. I think he gets that from my mom, who blames me for my dad's death. I do too. It is my fault after all, so I don't push back on it. Alright, normally I hold all my commentary for the end of the story, but I just have to stop this story here. OP, this is not your fault. In no way, shape, or form, in no universe is your dad dying from a car crash while he's driving you your fault. The fact that your mother blamed you for that is utterly disgusting. The fact that your stepfather jokes about that, and it's not even a good joke. A black widow is a woman who kills her husband or spouse, not a girl who kills her father. Anyways, OP, please don't blame yourself. This is completely 100% not your fault. Anyways, my point is that with the current situation, my parents are always looking for ways to get my half-siblings active and doing things without leaving the house and have recently settled on scavenger hunts. I have no problem with this, honestly. I do wish they'd stop hiding stuff in my underwear drawer, but it's a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, so that's not the worst. My problem, though, is that they keep taking my cane when I'm not looking, and having it be one of the items that my half-siblings need to find. When I complain to my stepdad, he scolds me for being selfish, and he points out that my swivel chair has wheels if I have to go to the bathroom, and that they always get it back to me before I go downstairs for dinner. I complained to my mom yesterday, and she said that I was being a brat, and that if I wanted a father who cared about me, I shouldn't have killed my dad. I got really upset at that point and called my grandparents. That is, my mom's parents. My dad's parents are dead too. They showed up at 10 p.m. yesterday, and Grandma screamed at them while Grandpa packed my stuff and helped me out to their car. My mom's been blowing up my phone and email, calling me all sorts of names and accusing me of turning her family against her and trying to get her in legal trouble since minors can't move out. And I can't help but think that maybe she's right. So, am I the butthole? OP, listen. I want to be ultra, 100% crystal clear. Listen when I tell you this. This is abuse. This is emotional abuse. This is physical abuse. Taking a disabled person's tools away from them is so messed up. You should treat someone's cane or their wheelchair as if it's an extension of their own body. And taking away someone's cane is like taking away someone's leg or arm. It's extremely disrespectful. And your mother constantly guilt-tripping you about your dad, that is utterly, completely disgusting behavior. I can't even make jokes about this because it's so disgusting. This woman does not deserve for you to call her mother. She doesn't deserve to have kids in the house. By all means, you should go live with your grandparents because they seem like people who are actually invested in your well-being. Your mother and your stepfather are utterly disgusting human beings, and I'm giving them the full 5 out of 5 butthole score. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for telling a girl to check her privilege? My school made the switch from paper to laptops and iPads 2 years ago, and since then, you can really see whose parents have money. I'm currently using some Asus that my uncle gave me because my family is below the poverty line. He bought it in 2011, and even though the battery is shot, it still runs and Word works, so I don't need much else. There's a pretty big financial divide in my town, and thus a large divide in the school, which is one of 2 secondary schools. A girl in my class posted a TikTok where she was rating people's laptops and iPads. She recorded mine, which was plugged in with this external hard drive, and you could very clearly see that the left side of the screen was broken. She rated it -3 out of 10 and wrote, "Poor girl," and zoomed in on my shoes to prove a point. My shoes are fine, they're just not Air Force Ones. Other laptops that weren't the latest MacBook or the latest iPad got rated pretty low. One of my friends showed me her video, and I confronted her about it. She seems really sheltered, and I asked her to take it down. She refused, so then I told her that it's incredibly classist, and I don't want that stuff on the internet. She still refused, and I got madder each time. Check your effing privilege. Not everyone can afford a 2,000 euro laptop, and not everyone effing prioritizes flashy over functional. She hasn't taken the video down. And my friend who showed me the video says that I overreacted, and that made me the butthole. My friend said the other girl sheltered, and I shouldn't overreact like that. Am I the butthole? Alright, OP, so first of all, I'm pretty sure that if you go to TikTok and report that video by saying that you're in the video, but you didn't give permission to be in that video, then I'm pretty sure that TikTok will just take that video down. That would probably be the easiest and most direct way of getting what you want. That being said, no, you're not the butthole. First of all, she is being privileged and classist, and calling that out is perfectly acceptable. Recording videos of minors and then putting those videos online where you're judging them is extremely rude. Overall, OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes, and I'm giving that girl 2.5 out of 5 buttholes. She's being a jerk, and she deserves to be called out for that jerky behavior. Am I the butthole for telling my brother that his crush dislikes him because he's a butthole and not because he's too smart? So, I have a 13-year-old younger brother who's a child prodigy. I won't give too many details, but he's well known in the academic circles of our country and attends an institute of higher education. Naturally, people are impressed with his intelligence, and he's quite popular and makes friends easily. Our parents dote on him and have never told him no. As a result, he's become very arrogant, condescending, and disrespectful to people he deems below him, and that's just about everyone. Lately, he's been openly talking about a girl that he's crushing on, and much to his dismay, she's quite unimpressed with him. He often complains to my parents and I about his failed attempts to befriend her. I understand why she dislikes him. On one occasion, he invited her over for a school project and I overheard their interaction. He was constantly talking over her, dismissing her ideas, and even calling them stupid. 99% of the time, he was talking about himself and his accomplishments, how he was in news articles, his future plans, etc. The poor girl obviously seemed uncomfortable. He quizzed her about her career aspirations, and when she answered, he proceeded to point out that it's a bad career path. Today, he was once again complaining about her and said that she's obviously intimidated by my superior intellect. He claimed that all girls only like stupid guys and that women are emotional. Sadly, my parents agreed and kept assuring him that this girl is obviously uncomfortable with the fact that he's so accomplished and awesome. After hearing this nonsense one too many times, I finally told him that his crush dislikes him because he behaves like an obnoxious know-it-all douchebag. I explained that he'd probably have a chance if he showed some modesty instead of talking down on this girl so much. So my parents obviously think that I'm the butthole for saying this. They said that it was horrible of me to say this to a 13-year-old and that he's just a child. I told them that he needs to realize that his personality is becoming a problem and that his crush dislikes him because he's a butthole, not because he's too smart. Am I the butthole? OP, not the butthole. It sounds like your parents are raising a narcissistic monster. Just because you have a high IQ doesn't mean you have a high EQ. As smart as this guy is, he clearly has no idea how to interact with people in a normal way. This reminds me of a show I watched. I think it was called like Wife Swap or Family Spouse Swap. I don't know. It was one of those things where like you have two completely opposite families and they swapped the moms of the two families. And one of the family, they were like really emotional and in tune with their feelings, and they cried and they expressed themselves. And the other family was very like logical and reasonable, and actually that is not a logical conclusion type of family. So the logical family had this teenage boy who was just this insufferable douchey know-it-all. And the emotional mom kept like trying to connect with his son, and the son was just being really smarmy and douchey to the mom and just trashing on her constantly. But the mom was being like really patient and like trying to just convey to him like, look, you can't just be a know-it-all all the time because people don't like that. And this kid just wasn't figuring it out. So what she did was she went to like the local church and found some really cute 16-year-old girl. And to be clear, this boy was also like 16 or whatever. And she set them up on like a blind date. And they went, and afterwards the mom asked the 16-year-old son what the date was like. And he was like, oh, the date went incredible. I can't wait to see her again. I'm sure she was impressed by my amazing intellect. And then they cut to the 16-year-old girl and she was like, yeah, I tried to be nice to him on the date, but he was just constantly rude and talking about himself, and he was really condescending. So there's definitely not going to be date number 2. And the mom showed the 16-year-old boy this girl's interview, and he was like, "Oh, I see. Well, maybe being emotionally in tune isn't such a bad thing after all." So I guess what I'm trying to say here, OP, is that you're 100% correct. But if you really want your younger brother to get this lesson, don't make him hear this advice from you. Make him hear this advice from a pretty teenage girl. If there's anything on earth that can force a 13-year-old know-it-all teenage boy to change his behavior, it's a teenage girl. Am I the butthole for saying that my kids aren't my greatest accomplishment and that I resent the assumption that they are? I love my kids, but they're not my everything. I had a whole lifetime before my kids. I ran marathons, climbed mountains, wrote a novel that was published and did moderately successful in the aughts. And I have an MFA in creative writing. Chatting with some folks in the neighborhood, we got to talking about our greatest accomplishments. When it came to me, one of my neighbors, Tom, said, "Oh, well, we all know what your greatest accomplishment is, obviously. You have 3 beautiful, well-behaved children." I was honestly shocked and said, "No, that's not my greatest accomplishment." He looked just as shocked, and I said what my greatest accomplishment is, and then I said, "And by the way, I resent the assumption that having kids is my greatest accomplishment. You have kids, why didn't you say that?" He talked about how he didn't birth the kids, and how that's a miracle of life and all that gag me stuff. I just rolled my eyes and said, "Let's not boil women down to their biological functions, okay?" Jen, who also has kids, chimed in and said, "Well, my kids are my greatest accomplishment. I can't imagine thinking anything else." Tom looked super smug, and others, including other moms, chimed in. All the other moms agreed that kids were their greatest accomplishments. I kinda stewed about that. After that, the woman who chimed in sent me a message asking if I wanted to talk to someone, and asking if I was depressed because my statement was worrisome. She ended up reaching out to my husband to encourage me to get help because it seems that I'm unhappy with being a mom, and that puts my kids at risk. Am I really the butthole here for thinking that being a mom isn't the end-all be-all of my life? Like, WTF? Nah, OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes here. First off, children aren't accomplishments, they're people. Second, the great thing about being a human being is you get to define your own existence. If those other mothers want to define themselves by their kids, then go for it, they have every right to do so. But if you want to define yourself by other accomplishments and also be proud of your kids, then what's the problem? OP, your friends are super sexist, and they're basically saying that a woman's value boils down to whether or not she can have kids. Also, I have to wonder, do you think that Tom is trying to belittle your accomplishments because you have accomplished so much in life? And by belittling your other accomplishments and pointing to your kids as your major accomplishment, he can feel better about his jealousy? Also, down in the comments, some people are saying that actually everyone sucks here because OP was getting all in a huff over a minor comment, but the neighbors made a sexist comment to OP, so she has every right to get upset about it. If I was having small talk with someone and someone made some condescending remark to me, I would have a right to get upset about that too. Anyways, OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your neighbors 2 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for screaming at my sister and telling her that she's not actually pregnant? I'm a 35-year-old woman who's pregnant with my 30-year-old sister's child. My sister has some fertility issues and isn't able to have a safe pregnancy. I offered to carry her baby for her and her husband. I'm now currently 6.5 months along, and everything's going well. Once we found out that I was pregnant, my sister made the decision to live like she herself is the one pregnant. I found it odd, but I didn't see an issue with it. I understood that she's going through an emotional time. I mainly thought that this was going to be something just between her and her husband. I was wrong, and she's begun to act pregnant in her daily life. At first it was just small things, like having her husband run out to get food that she was craving. But it developed into other things like wearing maternity clothes. She also gets annoyed if I talk about my cravings or my pregnancy symptoms around her. These things don't bother me much, and I just think my sister wants to feel involved. Today, my sister wanted to go shopping to look at baby things since the stores have reopened in our area. The day started with her getting angry whenever sales staff would talk to me. I would explain to the salespeople that my sister is the mother whenever it was needed. After a few stores, we arrived at a baby retailer where she wanted to make a baby registry. At this point, I was extremely tired and wanted to go home. I told my sister this, and she promised this would be the last store. I must have looked exhausted because as we were waiting, the salesperson brought over a chair for me to sit while the registry paperwork was done. When she brought it over, she said something like, "Here's a chair for Mom." I didn't correct the salesperson this time and just sat down. My sister told me to get up and give her the chair after I sat down. I asked her why, and I tried to explain that I was tired. My sister berated me by saying the salesperson said the chair was for the mom and that she was supposed to sit. She said that this was her registry appointment, and how dare I act like this was all about me. She said that she was the one who was the expectant mother and that she had to sit down right now. I told my sister that, yeah, she's going to be the mother, but I'm the one who's currently pregnant. I snapped at her that she's not actually pregnant and she doesn't understand how exhausting it can be. I told her that I'm trying my best to appease her, but she's being ridiculous. My sister began to cry, saying that I was shaming her for not being able to get pregnant and that I was making fun of her. I tried to defend myself and tell her that's not what I meant. She wouldn't listen and she ran out of the store. Everyone in the store was staring at us. They were looking at me like I was a complete monster after hearing what my sister said. My mother says that I should have just let my sister have the seat. I know this thing must seem so small and stupid because it's about a chair, but I don't know if I'm the butthole in this situation or not. OP, it sounds like your sister is going through some kind of emotional or psychological trouble that is manifesting in some really troubling ways. I get that this is her child, so she wants to feel involved, she wants to be important, she wants to be the star of the show, and yeah, in a way she should be. However, we can't overlook the reality of the situation, which is that you're the one who's pregnant. Pregnant people have real, tangible needs. They get tired, they have to go to the bathroom a lot, they need to eat certain things, they can't eat certain things. Those needs are important because it affects the health of both you and the baby. So yeah, even though your sister should be the star of the show, the unfortunate reality is that she has to share the stage with you. She has to be mindful of your physical needs, of you being tired or hungry or whatever. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. The fact that you're carrying your sister's child makes you seem like an amazing sibling. Also, for the most part, you've been patiently dealing with your sister's emotions. You did have this one outbreak, but given the situation, I'd say that's pretty understandable. Your sister, however, is acting very unreasonably. I'm giving her 2 out of 5 buttholes. That was rSlash AmITheButthole, and if you like this content, check out my Patreon where I publish extra episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.